Good morning, good morning. All right, so we were on Prophecy Key to the Future, Growth and Development in Zion. Last time we were talking about how there was going to be a servant by the name of David to parallel that of King David just before the beginning of the millennium to build up Jerusalem in the Middle East. And that blew me away because that never registered in my brain until I read this book, which it clearly does state in scriptures, which I was also, again, surprised because it never registered in my brain. Now we're on the removal of the 10 tribes from Zion to Palestine. Another important event which will apparently take place during this period following the universal conflict will be the removal of the 10 tribes from an area near New Jerusalem to the land of Palestine, even though the Americans have been set apart as the land of inheritance for the descendants of Joseph. See 1 Nephi 5:5 and Alma 46:23-24. Yet it appears that some of the tribes of both Manasseh and Ephraim will return to Palestine and settle there, as Ezekiel includes them in his apportionment of the land of Palestine in the last days. See Ezekiel 48:1-5. According to Orson Pratt, however, these tribes will linger quite some time, at least until after the selection of the 144,000 in the area of New Jerusalem before journeying to Palestine. Quote, "How long will they who come from the north country tarry in the heights of Zion? Some time. They've got to raise wheat, cultivate grape wine oil, raise flocks and herds, and their souls will have to become as a watered garden. They will dwell in Zion a good while, and during that time there will be 12,000 chosen out of each of these 10 tribes, besides 12,000 that will be chosen from Judah, Joseph, and the remaining tribes, 144,000 in all. Chosen for what? To be sealed in their foreheads. For what purpose? So that the power of death and pestilence and plague that will go forth in those days, sweeping over the nations of the earth, will have no power over them." Journal of Discourses 18. It appears that although the tribes will linger in the latter-day Zion for some time, they nevertheless may return to Palestine in time to assist in rebuilding the city of Jerusalem, and that the temple before the Lord appears. Orson Pratt taught that the whole of the 12 tribes of Israel are to return back to Palestine and Asia and rebuild their city of Jerusalem and a temple within that city before and preparatory to the coming of the Lord. Journal of Discourses 14. That the Lord's coming, to which Pratt referred, was the coming on Mount Olives, is made clear by another statement which he made. Note also that he speaks of the tribes returning to Palestine after an era of universal conflict. Quote, so this is again Orson Pratt. Quote, "It is because of this that the light of the nations have in their midst, which they will not receive, that the Lord will visit them first. When he has visited and overthrown them, he will lay his hand heavily upon the heathen nations in Asia, and also those who are in Africa, and they will be visited with a severe judgment. But they will not be utterly destroyed. A portion of the heathen nations will be redeemed. Why? They will see the power and glory of God that will be manifested among the tribes of Israel, who will be gathered out from their midst and return to their own land. They will see the glory of the God manifested as in ancient times, and they will say, surely Juggernaut is no longer my God." I wonder if that was a common just name for gods in general. "Surely I will not worship crocodiles nor serpents, neither will I worship the sun nor the moon. For there is a God manifested among that people, Israel, who is worthy of the natures and attributes of a God. I will cast my gods to the moles and to the bats, and I will worship the God of Israel. Then will be fulfilled that which was spoken by the prophet Ezekiel. Then shall the heathen know that I, the Lord, am God, And it will come to pass that after that period, when Jesus shall have raised all the righteous from their graves, that he will descend with all the host of heaven accompanying him, and will stand upon the Mount of Olives. And he will go out of Jerusalem, and the Jews will go out of the mount to meet him, and will acknowledge him as their Messiah and King. And then it shall come to pass that the heathen nations will also more fully recognize him as the true and only God. Then will be fulfilled that which was written in the last chapter of Zachariah, that every nation round about Jerusalem shall come up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, at Jerusalem, and also keep the Feast of Tabernacles. There will be a great many of those solemn assemblies and feasts that were commanded in ancient times, that will be reestablished in the midst of Israel, when they shall return. Journal of Discourses 20. Several scriptural passages seem to support Pratt in his view that the 10 tribes will return to Palestine before the Battle of Armageddon and Christ's coming to the Mount of Olives. John's revelation appears to indicate that a temple will have been erected before the Battle of Armageddon, for as he prophesies of a battle, he speaks of the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. He comments also that the court which is without a temple will be given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot for 42 months. See Revelations 11, 1 through 3. 11, 1 through 13. 12, 24, 36, 48, 3.5 years, okay. Comes also that the court which is about the temple will be given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall tread underfoot. Yeah. So, I don't know. Sorry, the comments that I want to have, I'm like, why? I get the timeline the book has, totally. Yet again, I'm sitting here going, there's so many things that are already on the verge right now that I'm like, why couldn't it be fulfilled in another way? And so, for example, there is a group of people that are getting a red heifer ready for being able to reestablish the temple rites in Jerusalem. And they're basically ready there now. Completely, maybe not. But I've heard some people say that, no, it's not ready because they're not perfectly pure red cows. Others have said they are perfectly pure red cows, and they're just, saying that they're not pure so they don't get a lot of flack. But more recently they said that they do have it, so who knows on that one. But to me, I'm like, okay, before starting this book, to give you an idea, my conception was that we were so close to Christ coming again, like touching his foot down on the Mount of Olives close, where there are earthquakes that have occurred in Jerusalem, where they have found the earthquake fault that goes through the Mount of Olives, where they have that red heifer ready, where members of the saints are being prompted to go to Missouri right now. It's like there's all these things that are already kind of getting in place, that it's like these calamities, it's just going to take a big, nasty, awful war to kick things off. And, whether that's just a crazy, amazing, economic downturn where everyone is rioting in the streets, or whether it's there's a big giant war because one of our socioeconomic rivals just decides, let's pull the trigger because I think we can, or whatever else. It's there's so many things that are just like, it feels like it's right on the verge, that it's like, okay, all we need is just some big thing. And I'm like, Battle of Armageddon. Sure, that could happen, because look at all the conflicts that Israel was embroiled in because of uh, Hamas invading and slaughtering their people in October of 2024. Yeah. What's up, bud? I don't know if you can hear the cat's meow. He is. I'm trying to figure out if he's chasing something or he's just having morning zoomies. Morning zoomies. Looks like it's shades to me. All right. So, my conception of everything before starting this book was along the lines of, we're right there. Anything can light the match and we'll be ready. With how this is structured, there's so much that I'm like, yeah, we're already there, like I said. But at the same time, I'm like, I get where it's coming from. So, I don't know. This is why I sit here and think, well, what if we've already found the 10 tribes of Israel on this side of the veil, and we're just working with those on the other side of the veil, and so all these things are getting fulfilled, we're just not aware of it, because Jesus comes like a thief in the night, right? And for us, we just need to be aware. And so if we're aware of the news in the world and what's been happening, we're like kind of right on that cusp. And so the idea is that maybe we are starting to build a new Jerusalem, and maybe the old Jerusalem is going to start being built up. And then they're going to be like, no, we can't have this. And that Battle of Armageddon is to try and just, it's part of the whole times of persecution and trying to crush those that are good and righteous. So, don't know. There's the other side of the coin that's going on in my head at the same time of just going, yeah, cool, keep it coming. All right. Now, it has also been seen that the Israelite leader, a prince by the name of David, will be raised up in the last days, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. See Zachariah 6:12-13 for assurance that the branch is Prince David. Compare this passage with Ezekiel 44:2-4. Which is to be established. Since the temple will probably be constructed before the Battle of Armageddon, and since David is to be responsible for its construction, it would seem that David will rise to power before the time of Christ's appearance in the Mount of Olives. Ezekiel stated that both Israel and Judah would be returned to Palestine, and David would be established as their king, and then the Lord would set his sanctuary or temple among them. In doing so, he spoke of a stick of Judah and another stick for Joseph, and the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel and his companions. Then he recorded that the Lord would make them one stick, and shall be one in mine hand. Then Ezekiel clarified the prophecy by stating, quote, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land of the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. And David my servant shall be king over them, and my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them for evermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. This is Ezekiel 37:15-27. Now, there's a bunch of information, a footnote here, so let me read that. It seems that Ezekiel established the following events in chronological order. 1, the 10 tribes will be largely united with Judah in the land of Palestine. 2, that David the prince will rule over them. 3, the temple will be built or set in the midst of them. And 4, the heathen will come to a knowledge of the power of God by seeking the downfall of the forces of Gog and in the battle of Armageddon. See Ezekiel 37:15-28 and 38:16. The prophet Jeremiah also indicated that the captivity of Judah and of Israel will be ended, and they will be restored to their inheritances in Jerusalem. He then tells how they will inhabit the desolate places of Palestine and make them to blossom, and continues his account by telling how David will rule over them and execute judgment in righteousness in the land. In the days of his rules shall Judah be saved. If the phrase is a reference to the Armageddon scene, then his statement is also indication of the chronology. See Jeremiah 33, 7 through 16. Statements of Zachariah and Isaiah seem to indicate that Israel and Judah will be united in battles against other nations, and these battles would apparently be before the Armageddon struggle. See Zechariah 10, 3 through 10, and Isaiah 11, 13 through 16. Okay, I mean, I get his chronology. He's got good reason for it. Again, I don't know. I just have, it's these feelings of, we're right there. Maybe it's just meant for me to get my butt in gear about other things than worry about all of this wrapping up and coming to fruition. So, it appears that the timing of this event may be further verified by a combination of two scriptural references. The Apostle John, in his vision of the events of the last days, foresaw a period of world warfare in which a third of the men are to be slain. And he was also shown the battle of Armageddon. But between these two revelations, a voice from heaven spake to him and said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And when I went to the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book, and he said to me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey, and as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. It's Revelations 10, 8 through 11. The interpreting the passage, Joseph Smith recorded that, what do we understand? That it was a mission and an ordinance for him to gather the tribes of Israel. Behold, this is Elias, who, as it is written, must come and restore all things. Doctrine and Covenants 77:14. It appears then that John was prophesying that Israel would be gathered to Palestine between the sixth plague and the Battle of Armageddon. Prophesied borders of Israel in the last days. You have the present area, which is horizontal lines, and the diagonal lines will be the future extent of Israel as prophesied by Israel. There we are. So you can see that Israel will get to what river do they have there? River of Egypt on the Sinai Peninsula. Or that's got to be the Sinai Peninsula. I'm like, there's no way Egypt is that close. Anyway, River of Egypt there. They will have the West Bank. They'll have the Gaza Strip. It'll go all the way up into what's currently southern Lebanon. They'll have Damascus, Beerath, etc. So, wait a minute. When was that map made? Is Israel still just that right now? All right, time to check. The next section is the distribution of the land among Israel. And so that's why, hence the map. But now I'm curious. All right, let's get down to business. That is pretty dang close. Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's not. Not by a long shot. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at this northern extent. So you have the Sea of Galilee. Yeah. Okay, yeah, the map is pretty darn close to what it's showing. So, River of Egypt. That would be the Sinai Peninsula here, but where is there a river of Egypt on the Sinai Peninsula I've missed? Maybe one will be made. Because next is what I see is the Suez Canal. So, meh. All right. So yeah, it will be greatly expanded. Sorry for the wait there, but let's go to the distribution of land among the tribes. In his vision, Ezekiel saw and recorded the borders which will eventually encompass the land of Israel in the last days. These borders are to encompass a much larger area than the present territory of Palestine, or Israel. They keep saying Palestine because it was made in the 60s, but Israel. Quote, "And this shall be the border of the land toward the north side from the great sea, the way of Hethlon, as men go to Zedad. Hamath, Berothah, Sibrim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, Harazathatkon, which is by the coast of Hauran, and the border from the sea shall be Hazranon, the border of Damascus and the northward, and the border of Hamath. This is the north side. And the east side ye shall measure from Hauran, from Damascus, from Gilead, and from the land of Israel by Jordan, from the border to the east side, and this shall be the east side. And the south side, southward, from Tamar even to the waters of strife in Kadesh, the river to the great sea, and this is the south side, southward. The west side also shall be the great sea from the border till a man come over against Hamath. This is the west side. So shall ye divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel." That's Ezekiel 47, 15 through 21. And that's why we showed the chart. Ezekiel also saw, in Ezekiel 47 and 48, that a place of inheritance for each of the 12 tribes will be established in parallel east to west strips across the land of Palestine. The temple, an area for the priests and special area for the ruler, will be set aside in the center. This distribution of the land is summarized by Pfeiffer in his introduction to the Old Testament. He has a quote for that, but there was a footnote about the place of inheritance for each of the 12 tribes. So the footnote says, "Note that even though the contents of America have been promised as lands of inheritance for the descendants of Joseph, nevertheless there will be an area in Palestine which will be inherited by descendants of both Ephraim and Manasseh. Conceivably, these could be the people who were with the lost tribes, and it is possible that they may prefer to go back to the lands of Palestine with the rest of the tribes." That's fair enough. I'm fascinated by this because again, I get the sense that we're on the doorstep of a lot of stuff. And so if all this stuff happens, but just out of order, I wouldn't be surprised. But let's continue with his quote about Pfeiffer in his introduction to the Old Testament. "The 12 tribes are arranged in parallel strips, 7 north, Dan, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, Reuben, Judah, and 5, Benjamin, Simeon, Issachar, Zebulun, Gad, south of the sacred area." He points to Ezekiel 48, 1 through 7, 48, 23 through 29. This holy zone, or oblation, 45, 1 through 8, and 48, 8 through 22, is a strip of 25,000 cubits long and 10,000 wide, comprising the domain of the priests with the temple in the center. North of it is the Levite domain, 10,000 cubits wide. South of the city, a square 45,000 cubits per side, rounded by a strip of open land, 250 cubits wide east and west. Of the city are its lands, 2 rectangles, 5,000 by 10,000 cubits in size. The whole square, 25,000 cubits per side, comprising the domains of the Levites, the priests, and the city, in the land surrounded by the tribal territories of Judah, north, and Benjamin, south, and by the domain of the prince, east and west. That is, introduction to the Old Testament. According to Pfeiffer, a Hebrew cubit is the equivalent of 17.58 inches or 44.65 centimeters. How wide are these, and why did they become strips? 10,000 by inches, though. It's greater than a foot by 5 inches. So let's just estimate by inches. So 12,000 inches. So that's 1,000 feet. Maybe these are places. I have no. That just seems odd. Here's what they have for the diagram that he's talking about. And perhaps I need to read Ezekiel and see if that really is what he's talking about. I just sit there and think, for entire tribes to inherit these areas, are we, I just sit here and think, wouldn't it be like more of a gathering place? It doesn't seem like it's that big if they're talking about, if a cubit is a foot and they're 10,000 cubits wide, let's say they're about 10,000 feet wide. Obviously, it's a little more than that. So 10,000 feet wide. Man, dang it, now I'm sitting here, how many feet in a mile? One of these tidbits I've never been able to memorize. How many feet in a mile? Ah, come on. How many feet in a mile? It's not doing that. How can I help you?
I need you to move my hair.
Dear, I'm right in the middle of everything. You'll have to do it yourself.
Oh, you're recording?
Yes. I love you. Life. All right. So about 5,280 feet in a mile. So it's about 2 miles wide. Okay, 2 miles wide. And they're saying how long? 25,000 cubits long. So for 5 miles long, so 2 miles by 5 miles, that kind of thing. It'd be interesting. It's pretty good. I just don't think it's big enough for entire nations, but maybe there's just not enough population, or it'll be gathering places for when everyone comes up to worship. I don't know. We shall see. The prophet Jeremiah foretold of the area which the city of Jerusalem will eventually include. Behold, the day. I appreciate you having patience with me. Measuring things in something that's comparable, that's completely foreign, then comparing it to inches gives me no actual sense of perspective. So sitting here and saying it's going to be something like 2 miles for the short end of the strip by 5 miles for the long end of the strip. It's like, okay, this I can kind of see. And there are cities that, towns that are that size. Just look at, go to Google Maps and go to Cedar City. And you'll see that, it's depending on whether you're sitting here thinking of a metropolis like New York, that's going to be pretty small. But if you're thinking of just a town or a small city like, let me go to Google Maps. I love to do this. If you go to Google Maps and you go over the Salt Lake Valley or your own personal city, wherever you're at, because I have no idea. We're worldwide. They have the measuring tool in the bottom, and 2 miles, for example, is between I-15 and I-215 on the west side. So there's a strip about that. you'll see in the very bottom left there what I'm talking about. It has the 5 mile there too. So not a huge amount of space. Not bad, but not a huge amount of space. And that way you can get, like, what does this mean physically? If you go to someplace like Cedar City, though, there we are. No, not St. George. Went too far. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Cedar City, not a very big town. Most of it fits within a mile. So, a majority of it. Oh, it keeps removing the size of it. But anyways, that's an exercise you can do to figure out, okay, how big is it really talking about? So it's big enough for a small town, but not big enough for a huge city. On the other hand, if you're having 12 small towns next to each other, that becomes a big city, essentially. So, fair enough. But the prophet Jeremiah foretold of the area which the city of Jerusalem will eventually include. Quote, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the city shall be built to the Lord from the tower of Hananeel unto the gate of the corner. And measuring the line, ye shall go forth against it upon the hill Gerib, and shall compass about to Goath. And the whole valley of the dead bodies of the ashes, and all the fields under the brook of Kidron, unto the corner of the horse gate toward the east, shall be holy unto the Lord. It shall not be plucked up nor thrown down any more forever." It's Jeremiah 31, 38 through 40. Cool. Construction of the temple in Jerusalem and the restoration of sacrificial worship. It appears that the era after the universal conflict will also be the period when the temple will be built in Jerusalem and when Palestine will embark upon its greatest era of productivity. President Charles W. Penrose spoke of the removal of the Muslim mosque, which now stands on the site where the temple will be built. Ooh, this is treading on feet and sacred cows. This is a sore spot for the Middle East. So let's see what President Charles W. Penrose had to say. Quote, "The work is moving on for the gathering of the Jews to their own land, that they may build it up as it was in former times, that the temple may be rebuilt, and the mosque of the Muslim, which now stands in its place, may be moved out of the way, that Jerusalem may be rebuilt upon its original site, that the way may be prepared for the coming of the Messiah." Journal of Discourses 24. The prophet Ezekiel envisioned this temple and gave a detailed description of it. The following is a brief summary of the Ezekiel's description given by the Bible commentator Robert H. Pfeiffer. The sacredness of the temple, entirely surrounded by the priest's domain, is further ensured by enclosing within 2 courts, instead of a single court, of Solomon's temple, the external wall separating the holy from the common enclosures, a square 500 cubits per side. Its ratio is 42:20. Oh, no, that's Ezekiel 42:20. Containing the outer court, 40:28 through 37, a rectangle by 350 by 200 cubits, within which stands the sanctuary. Laymen worship in the outer court, 46:3 and 9, and no longer take part in the sacrificial rites. The private sacrifices by the prince are slain by priests, 46 and 2. Those of the people by the Levites, 44 and 11, chapter 44:11, who also boil the meat, 46:24, which the people eat in the outer court. Although Ezekiel's plan of having 2 courts instead of 1 was adopted in the post-exilic temple, the laymen did not renounce the immemorial custom of offering their own sacrifices in the inner court. That's Levi 1:5 and 11, etc. This is a summary of Ezekiel's description recorded in the chapters Ezekiel 40 through 42. Ezekiel tells a great river which will proceed out from under the temple. And he predicts that the water from this river will issue toward the east country, go down into the desert, go to the Dead Sea, which, being brought forth unto the sea, the waters shall be healed, Ezekiel 47. Joseph Smith commented on this passage and said that Judah must return, Jerusalem must be rebuilt, the temple and the water come out from under the temple, and the waters of the Dead Sea be healed. It will take some time to rebuild the walls of the city and the temple, etc. And all this must be done before the Son of Man will make his appearance. There will be wars and rumors of wars, signs in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. The sun turned to darkness, and the moon turned to blood, earthquakes in diverse places, and the seas heaving beyond their bounds. Then will appear one grand sign of the Son of Man in heaven. But what will the world do? Will they say it is a planet, a comet, etc.? But the Son of Man will come as the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, which will be as the light of the morning cometh out of the east. See History of the Church 5. Ezekiel discusses the worship of the service of the temple, which will be built, and reveals that the principal of blood sacrifice will be restored. Quote, "And he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith the Lord God, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they shall make it, to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. And thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me, to minister unto me, saith the Lord God, a young bullock for a sin offering. And thou shalt take of the blood thereof, and put it on the four horns of it, and on the four corners of the settle, and upon the border round about. Thus shalt thou cleanse and purge it. Thou shalt take the bullock also of the sin offering, and shall burn it in the appointed place of the house without the sanctuary. And on the second day thou shalt offer a kid of the goats without blemish for a sin offering. And they shall cleanse the altar, as they did cleanse it with the bullock. And when thou hast made an end of cleansing it, thou shalt offer a young bullock without blemish, and a ram out of the flock without blemish. And thou shalt offer them before the Lord, and the priest shall cast salt upon them, and they shall offer them up for the burnt offering unto the Lord. 7 days shalt thou prepare every day a goat for a sin offering. They shall also prepare a young bullock and a ram out of the flock without blemish. 7 days shall they purge the altar and purify it, and they shall consecrate themselves. And when these days are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day, and so forward, the priest shall make your burnt offering upon the altar, and your peace offerings I will accept you, saith the Lord God. Ezekiel 43, 18-27. The prophet Joseph Smith explained that the principle of sacrifice is eternal, and that sacrifices are offered when the powers of Melchizedek's priesthood are sufficiently manifest. However, he explained that the restoration of the principle of blood sacrifice does not mean that the law of Moses, with its rites and ceremonies, will be reestablished. So which is it? Quote, "It is generally supposed that the sacrifice was entirely done away when the great sacrifice, i.e., the sacrifice of the Lord Jesus, was offered up, and that there will be no necessity for the ordinance of sacrifice in the future. But those who assert this are certainly not acquainted with the duties and privileges and authority of the priesthood or with the prophets. The offering of sacrifice has ever been connected with, The offering of sacrifice has ever been connected and forms a part of the duties of the priesthood. It began with the priesthood and will be continued until after the coming of Christ from generation to generation. These sacrifices, as well as every ordinance belonging to the priesthood, will, when the temple of the Lord shall be built, and the sons of Levi be purified, be fully restored and attended to in all their powers and ramifications and blessings. This ever did and ever will exist when the powers of the Melchizedek priesthood are sufficiently manifest. How else can the restitution of all things be spoken of by the holy prophets be brought to pass? It is not to be understood that the law of Moses will be established again with all its rites and variety of ceremonies. This has never been spoken of by the prophets. But those things which existed prior to Moses' day, namely sacrifice, will be continued. History of the Church 4. Ooh, interesting. Prophecies concerning Israel's political affairs. Yeah, we can finish this off. Okay, so sacrifice will be instituted again. It sounds like blood sacrifice according to these scriptures and how it was put by Joseph. I mean, you could have some wiggle room saying that, sure, sacrifice will be instituted, but maybe not blood sacrifice. Maybe. I don't know. There's not much wiggle room, though. It seems like that's kind of like the intent. So, all the different specific little rites here and there, no. The law of Moses isn't reintroduced in that way. But the sacrifice, which was before, yeah. If Adam and Eve did it, kind of thing, sacrifice of the fruits, first of the fruits of the field, and firstlings of the flock, okay, I could see it. Prophecies concerning Israel's political affairs. Isaiah seems to indicate that when the tribes of Israel return to Palestine, they will live in peace among themselves and put away their ancient rivalry between the northern and southern kingdoms. Yeah, that's a very old and buried axe at this point. He states that the envy also out of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. However, several prophecies speak of the need for expansion, which Israel will feel because of overpopulation, stating that the place shall not be found for them. So that's Isaiah 11:13 and Zachariah 10:10. And that Israelites, as they gather, will say, "This place is too strait for me. Give place to me that I may dwell." Isaiah 49:20. See what I was talking about? 12 small cities right next to each other. It's not going to be enough. Israel's political disputes with neighboring countries are also prophesied. A warfare against the surrounding nations is predicted for the period after the 10 tribes have returned to Palestine. They, Ephraim and Judah, shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. The Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. That's Isaiah 11:14 through 15. Okay. Of particular note is the repetition of the prophecies concerning the eventual downfall of Egypt. Joel says that Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their hand. That's Joel 3:19. This apparently takes place before the Battle of Armageddon, as Egypt is conspicuously absent from Ezekiel's list of those who will fight in that battle under the leadership of Gog. See Ezekiel 38:16. Conflict with Egypt and with the nations that make up the area of ancient Assyria is also foretold by Zachariah. Apparently, both of these areas will be overcome, though it is not clear what part of Israel will play in their downfall. Quote, "Mine anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats, for the Lord of hosts hath visited his flock, the house of Judah, and hath made them as his goodly horse in the battle. Out of him came forth the corner, out of him the nail, out of him the battle bow, out of him every oppressor together, and they shall be as mighty men which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in the battle, and they shall fight, because the Lord is with them, and the riders on horses shall be confounded. I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them again to place them, and for I have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. For I am the Lord their God, and will hear them. And they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad, and their heart shall rejoice in the Lord. I will hiss for them and gather them, for I have redeemed them, and they shall increase as they have increased. And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and be turned again. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up. And the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away." This is all Zechariah 10:3 through 11. Isaiah also speaks of people gathering from Assyria and Egypt in a time when they will be about to perish. Quote, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall beat off from the channel of the river unto the stream of Egypt, and ye shall be gathered one by one, ye children of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great trumpet shall be blown, and they shall come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship the Lord in the holy mount at Jerusalem." That's Isaiah 27, 12 through 13. And in another instance, he speaks of the remnant of the house of Israel, which shall be left, that will come from Assyria. Isaiah 11:16. And in another instance, he speaks of the remnant of as if many of them had been destroyed. It is expected then that Palestine will participate in a series of local wars between the time when Judah and the 10 tribes will have returned to Palestine and the time of the Battle of Armageddon. Again, I'm like, okay, how is this not fulfilled? Israel, since its reinception, has fought plenty of battles, time and time again. How has this not been fulfilled? In summary, in the era between the universal conflict and the Battle of Armageddon, both New Jerusalem and the land of Palestine will experience an important period of expansion. 1, New Jerusalem will grow and extend its boundaries outward for many miles in all directions. 1a, the Lamanites and the 10 tribes who will have recently gathered there will be joined by Gentiles from throughout the world who will come because of their nations will have been devastated. They will come because of the standard of peace and lawfulness which New Jerusalem will maintain. 1b, the kingdom of God will extend its rule throughout the 2 American continents and unite all the peoples of the Americas during this period. 2, this will be the period in which both Judah and the 10 tribes of Israel will gather together to Palestine. They will be apportioned parallel east-west strips of land on which the people from each of the 12 tribes will settle. 3, the boundaries of Israel will be much larger in that era than they are at the present time. 4, the temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem and sacrificial worship will be restored there. 5, the people of Israel return to Israel, an important leader known as David the Prince will be raised up by God to lead them. He will, 5a, be an ensign to which Israel will gather. 5b, build the Jerusalem temple. 5c, officiate in the temple services and receive the Messiah when he comes to the temple. 5d, judge the people with righteousness. 5e, live just before the beginning of the millennium and into that period. And 5f, be a descendant of both Judah and Joseph. 6, several wars or political disputes are prophesied which will seemingly involve Israel after all the tribes have gathered. But before the Battle of Armageddon, the present-day counterparts of Egypt, Philistia, Edom, Moab, and Assyria are to be conquered. All right, here's my 2 cents on this. I see the borders of Israel being expanded as something that is needed. But let's assume that we're on the verge of kicking off this fireworks show. And there's going to be a time of conflict, both internal and external to the United States, that is continuous. We're already kind of seeing certain stuff happening like that right now. There's major world powers getting in different positions for different things. And so, what occurs is that something is going to light off this stack of fireworks and conflicts happen, right? Because of these conflicts, people move to New Jerusalem. I still don't understand why people think that it'd be wiped clean because there's so many members of the church there. That still does not fit for me. That is one that I cannot reconcile that. I read those prophecies. I saw where they come from. I have an explanation for there won't be so much as a yellow dog to wag its tail because Joseph Smith was... Anyway. But so, stuff kicks off. people will come, they need a place of safety and peace. So they come to the Rocky Mountains. Well, there's a lot of people that are already here. Okay, so what if conflict kicks off, and people start moving to New Jerusalem to build that up? But the idea is that wherever they are, they need to be able to incorporate a lot of people that come from everywhere else in a land of peace. Now, we're currently seeing a lot of problems worldwide where you have immigration problems. You have immigration problems because the people that come do not want to integrate, do not follow the laws, and also do not want to be basically a part of that society. They just want to be, because that is the big problem. And that's true of any subgroup coming into a major group, is that if you do not assimilate into the larger group, you are likely to cause issues among, just socially. And this is one of those reasons from Thomas Sowell that talked about why Jewish people are persecuted. This is also why Latter-day Saints get persecuted. This is also why any group that follows these things get persecuted, because if you have a easily discernible subgroup that has a great pronounced effect on who you are and the community that you're in, that people can easily designate that you are part of that subgroup, and yet you have certain skills and enough prosperity, they can start blaming you as victim oppressor kind of crap and persecute you. Then, so for immigration, same kind of thing. There's an easily discernible group that is coming in that, well, it's easily discernible because they're not assimilating into learning a language, becoming part of the system, going to the schools, going into works and jobs and other things like that. Instead, they stay isolated. And if they either cause trouble or have too much power, there's either way, it's a problem. Because if you are gaining enough skills and power, you can then have other rabble-rousers unjustly say, oh, they're the ones running everything. I mean, it's silly. And then the other is that, oh, those dirty, rotten Irish, they're coming here and they're just lazy, good for nothings, blah, blah, blah. Like, just take any immigrant group and you have that stigma against them. That they come here, that they're lazy, that they're not doing anything. But it all depends, because a lot of those subgroups turn it around. That maybe when they're first here and completely destitute, and sure, they need to have some sort of help or welfare, they appear to be, the dirty, rotten masses from wherever. That was, just look at there's several ways of immigrants. I'm picking on the Irish because that's not so hot topic anymore, but that was one of them. And there are some places that still have that. But you get that with any immigrant group. But here's the thing. This is going to be interesting, because if New Jerusalem is going to be built up over in Missouri, we'll have to be able to accommodate a whole bunch of people coming in, but they will have to be lawful, which means that there shouldn't be any problem with immigration, because the problems with immigration is non-assimilation and lawlessness, right? Okay? Because we really don't care when people want to come to America as long as they are lawful and contributing members of society. It's the ones that don't want to be contributing members of society, and more importantly, that are criminals, that we want all gone. So, if that's all gonna be done away with, or at least, if it's not done away with, it's at least a problem for everywhere else, which has everyone fighting against their neighbor, which makes sense. But anyone who is willing to live the commandments of God in New Jerusalem, I'm sure we'll be able to accommodate them. Because, again, the culture that will bind us together will be the gospel of Jesus Christ and the principles upon which it is. So whether they are members of the church or not, as long as they're willing to live those principles and be there and live by them, then we'll have safety and peace. And with that safety and peace, we can prosper. And with that prosperity, we can help everyone who is able to come. It will be a lot of work. And it will be a lot of important. One of the biggest things that I can see that's important throughout this whole thing is no matter what occurs, people of a righteous vision will need to be there to sit there and preach the gospel of, hey, we help everyone and our neighbor. If we are all trying, this is the standards that we're trying to live. Let's keep trying to live them. That's what will give us peace and prosperity. Don't fall away. Don't get into the mindset of everyone else out there who's causing conflict with one another. Don't fall prey to that. Instead, focus on living the gospel of Jesus Christ, helping your neighbor. We will have to, I think we'll have to really work on that unity more than ever, when it will be really hard to. But I think it will be able to be possible when people have a righteous vision in mind and are willing to work with one another. I would pray that the Lord will place as leaders people who understand what causes conflict and also how to properly call a spade a spade. And here's the reason I say that. Because although it would be nice to sit there and say, well, we can all get along, we need to be able to sit there and say, no, we're not doing this practice to consume it on our lust. We're not sitting here speaking in tongues just to say how great we are. We're speaking in tongues so we can help this nationality, that nationality, all come here and participate in the gospel of Jesus Christ. No, we're not going to sit there and be jealous of our neighbor. We can't have that in this survival situation. We have to work with what we have. And if you feel like you need more because your family is larger, be a good steward and we will apportion it to you. You know, it's like someone has to be pretty dang no nonsense of, no, it's got to be like this. And it has to be done in a way that I would hope that the hearts of the people who follow said leader will be softened to accept that. Because if people harden their hearts, there's a problem on both ends. You can have leaders that become corrupt, and you can have regular people that become jealous and envious. Remember Benson's Beware of Pride. Some of the biggest amount of pride is from the people who are the poorest. It's not just the snooty rich looking down on the poor people, though that definitely happens throughout time. But it's also the poor people being prideful in being poor and feeling that they deserve to be angry at the rich. It's not a good look on anyone. And people need to recognize that and be willing to change and soften their hearts and blow off some steam and go, yeah, okay, brother cool leader guy is right, and okay, yeah, let's do this. I figure it'll all work out, and if I still feel aggrieved, I can bring it up, but I can probably be a little more humble, you know. And also the cool leader guy can sit there and go, look, I'm serving as much as you. I'm doing everything I can to make sure everyone is taken care of, and this is what I need for my portion. Since I'm doing so much, it's not going to be as much as everyone else because I'm just going to be out there doing everything for everyone, arranging everything. It's going to be a rough go, whoever is in that position. And I just pray that we can support each other through it all. That's my take on it. That's what I'm sitting here thinking about is wherever we go, whatever portion we're at in this whole thing, you need to have a righteous vision of how the gospel works, how we need to be united, how we need to work with one another. Because we will have to, if there's conflict everywhere else but where we're at, unless the Lord is literally fighting our battles for us, there will be people who will have to be like police and warriors among us to keep us safe. We will have to figure out how to take care of the common problems of common societies, but most importantly, the more that we can preach and be on the same page of this is how we do things, we need to let go our envy, our strife, our struggles. The minor cultures from wherever you came from, your little things you like to do, that's fine. As long as it does not interfere with this gospel principle, that gospel principle, this principle, how we will have to organize ourselves physically, even though it's completely different from wherever we came from, whether it is good old capitalist America, whether it is Japan, whether it's Russia, we will have to give up our concepts of how things should be run and unite under one way of things being run and learn to be okay with it, learn to adjust our mindset, and really focus on true eternal principles. So that's my take on all this. It seems like how the book is placing it, that there's a lot that needs to take a while to happen. So whether it's all this conflict and thing rages for 20 years or whatever else, because like I said, what I hope for, honestly, what I've always hoped for is that we'll get the fireworks show started off, we'll have the worst parts of it be as short as possible, and then see the coming of the Son of Man in great glory, split the Mount of Olives, and go from there. I just want the worst of it to happen as swiftly as possible, shorten it as much as possible, and let us get through it. This, it seems like there's going to be that, but then part of it will also be, it's just going to be messy. That's really what it's going to be. It's going to be messy. There's going to be horrors and terrors all around us, but yet we will find a place of peace among it all. And because of that, we will be able to prosper despite rough things still happening. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I would love to know what I'm looking at when I see it. So hopefully it's obvious. Hopefully it's easy to spot. And if it's not, then I hope that we have the eyes and mindfulness to understand what is going on. That way we're prepared. I think there's a lot of Hollywood movies, not a lot, but there's a few Hollywood movies that also want it to be as blatantly obvious as possible for as short a time as possible. Just like what I want. And so, I don't know if you've ever seen Left Behind. I saw the original Left Behind with my dad in a theater back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was really cool. So, I get the desire for something Hollywood-esque like that. I don't think it'll be that easy. I think what I love to do is I love to look at these old scriptures and sit there and say, what is the human condition that would cause this to occur? This is why I love 4th Nephi and Omni, where you have a huge amount of history in a very short time, yet they mention a few things that happen, and you're like, whoa, what caused that to occur? And you sit there and think, well, let's put the dots together. So I hope that comes in handy. Most of all, I want God's Spirit to guide you in how you can be prepared for Him in your life. So may His Spirit be with you.